They have a lot of knowledge to offer us. But then you can get a lot of knowledge from all the information around us. Like aliens, you want to talk about aliens, man?
Yeah, talk to us about aliens.
Let's talk about a credible. When we talk about aliens, credible source of where you. Why it's like why do
CIA.
people get no. They're full of shit.
What about the hidden files?
I'm talking about like ancient stories, not just modern stuff. Modern stuff is cool too, but ancient stuff. Like me, when I was younger, I was interested when I was like 18, 19. That's when the curiosity started. I was like, what is the origins of a lot of the different kind of beliefs and religions?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I thought about that, I was like, well, what's the first human language that existed? Because they're going to have the first stories about the first religions and the first beliefs, you know? That little line of logic, that's what I thought. And then I learned first written language is Sanskrit or Sumerian.
Yeah.
And so I was like,
Hindi.
let me read the Sumerian and Sanskrit literature and tales that's been translated. And there's like one of the Sanskrit Sumerian texts that I really liked was there's this Egyptian scribe named Thoth who he's like considered the god of scripture, and he is his role in history, I guess, is pretty much he records history. This guy writes down, but the way he writes it down, is in the form of stories. So it's not like chronological order, timeline. This happened like this. Like these days, it's more like stories.
Stories such as the universe father had a son, and the son's hair was made of a river, and from the river was born.
Very poetic, very symbolic, like that. Mm-hmm. And then he, one of the stories he wrote about in the Emerald Tablets. Mm-hmm. That's what they're called. The stories of Thoth that he recorded down. They are in the Emerald Tablets, and they've been translated. You can look them up in books or online. And pretty much, I looked it up online from this one source that I forget what the name exactly is, because it was when I was like 18 and 19 when I first read it. I'm 24 now, you know. But pretty much one of the stories from the Emerald Tablets is that there was Nephilims, that's how they're pronounced, Nephilims, and they existed at a certain point in history according to Thoth. What a Nephilim is you know those statues in Egypt that are like the depiction of a human that's like 100 feet tall maybe? That's actually not a human depiction that's put to a large scale. That's actually the real life depiction of the real life scale of the being that used to be alive during the time. And those beings that were that tall and that big in stature were the Nephilim, because they were so they were at a higher level of consciousness than humans, or they were at a higher level of consciousness than like we are at our time right now. So when you're at a higher level of consciousness, like you, not only does your consciousness grow and you know different abilities, such as manifesting, you know.
Speaking about abilities of the brain, something I was talking about to my mom recently is how we all have iPhones, or most people have iPhones. You know, we all have phones, but we only use it to like 10% of its ability. And I think the same thing applies to the brain. There are people who learn how to make the most use of the brain, and they are able to kind of have what would be considered to be supernatural abilities. But really what it is just using parts of the brain that other people don't use. Just like the phone, most people would use it for Facebook, phone talking, messaging, and they don't realize all the other apps that you can have, all the other things you can do, like voice command. Like right now I can say, "Hey Siri," and it starts asking me, like, "What do you want?" So the same thing I think applies to the brain. And yeah, so keep telling us about.
Well, yeah, no, that pretty much the Nephilim were higher in consciousness, so they had higher abilities, such as when you're at a higher level in consciousness. Here, I'm good right now. I'm gonna take a little hit. When you're at a higher level of consciousness, like you can just do certain things, such as things that people might consider like are miracles, like how you said, supernatural. For example, healing oneself. Today, if you fuck up your leg, you mess it up or something, it's like get a cast, get stitches or something. A Nephilim, if they hurt their leg, they probably got either themselves, they can heal themselves back to normal, or they got some Nephilim healers, either male or woman, whoever the healer is, that they'll heal Nephilim. So your ability to heal, that's a strong one. That's just one little example. So then they were not, because your abilities grow, so does your physical body grow. That was pretty much the reason why they're like that tall. That according to Thoth, from what I remember.
So that's why you're taller than me?
Because I'm Nephilim, dog. But yeah, no, freaking. And then that's why so then in the story Thoth was saying the sperm of a Nephilim, or the egg of a Nephilim, I forget which, but it was like sperm and egg, one of a Nephilim, one of a primate combined, because the Nephilim could do this level of like experimenting because they're on a high level of consciousness. They could fuck with genetics and DNA and shit. So then they freaking do that, and that creates, boom, me right here, a human. What we are is a result of the Nephilim / primate. We're Nephilim and primate. That's like our origin, according to the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, which he's like an actual person that is written in the history books of Egypt, that like they exist. That he's considered as a god, though, as an ascended master, because he was, once man reached certain level of consciousness where he could resurrect that will, pretty much. Like he could,
like
I don't know if you would call it resurrect, but he can reincarnate that will. That'd be the better way, more accurate.
I think that's an avatar.
An avatar?
That's the definition of an avatar. It's
Really?
One that can.
The blue ones are like Avatar, the Last Airbender. The Avatar.
Kind of like the Last Airbender, but even not in that sense. In a sense that, for example, we're born and if we already have some advancement from prior lives, it's easier for us to get back up to speed. But, and make advancement to the point where we become Ascended Masters. But for these avatars, they are people, Ascended Masters, who are born, and from very child, they already know the way the universe works. They already know everything. They don't need to be taught. They don't need to read about it. They don't need to be told about it. Like the way Jesus did, where he went to the priests and he told them the way things work. From early child, he did. Maybe he had a teacher, but from very little, these people already know the way things are. That's what I've heard. I mean, I'm just sharing that.
No, I haven't heard that. So now thanks for sharing. No, well, you see that, and so the story like that. Why I'm even bringing it up is because that's like that'll open your mind to just supernatural type things. Maybe hearing about like so in Sumerian literature or scripture, whatever. There's stories such as that, like a Nephilim, a creature like a Nephilim existing, and an experiment like Nephilim with primate to create what is a human now. And just to finish up that story, it said the reason why they even did that experiment was that for the sole reason for humans to mine gold for them. We were created.
Yeah,
to mine gold.
we were actually.
That was how that story ended.
We
Yeah.
weren't supposed to be conscious. We were just supposed
No,
to be.
we were still conscious, but not at their level of conscious. Like, you know what I mean? And no, what's even crazier, dude, we used to be at this whole other level of conscious. You know, I even bring this here. There's a side thing. You remember how I used to tell you years ago, spirit science? You remember that? Spirit science. I used to tell you, like, check out the video, Spirit Science, dog. Like,
Yeah?
It's a whole YouTube subscription, of this. It's called the Spirit Science Network, I think.
Oh yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, and it's like little videos of the
Cartoons.
little blue guy. Yeah.
Yeah, cartoons.
Jordan. He's talking. If you guys haven't seen that, look that shit up. That guy puts together some of my favorite videos, man. That guy has good, dope ass videos that he compiles them from different books that he's read or different people that he's talked to, or various sources that he always cites. Yeah.
Who's your favorite Ascended Master? Or the one you?
I don't think I know that many.
The one you pay most attention to. For most people, it will be either Buddha or Jesus or Krishna, depending on what part of the world you live in. But for you, it's Buddha?
For me,
it's you.
I would say.
Is there a cat
That's
outside?
that's my cat.
Oh, dude, you're a cat.
And that was like this. I heard it too. Yeah. You okay? What happened? What are you doing outside? What's going on? Ooh. Is little guy meowing again inside.
It's a black cat. That's good luck.
Or a little bite of emoji.
It was Confucius who said,
Little look.
does a black cat bring bad luck? And Confucius said, only if you're a mouse.
What's funny?
So superstitions, huh?
Only if you're a mouse. That's a roast. What were you talking about though?
Ascended Master.
My favorite Ascended Master would be
Just walked in.
not an individual. Useful. My cat. But no. It's not this one person. It's like the Mayans. Fucking they ascended, dude, collectively, and I read it in a book.
That's why there's no record on him?
Yeah.
Like, no.
Dude, read the book, The Celestine Prophecy.
It was because the Aztecs ate him. I'm just kidding.
But fucking. Oh shit. There's 3 missed calls, I guess.